Hi, I'm Derek Ashong, and you're now on the stream. Welcome. Today is a very, very special show. It's going to be all about audience participation, all about your feedback. Before we dive into it, we have our normal pre-show where we talk about some of the issues of the day. Remember, as always, you can join us after the show to talk more in depth about some of the issues we've raised during the post-show. It's going to be a fun one. Definitely stay with us. Ahmed, Jenny, great to see you. Also, I see we got a friend. We'll introduce him a little bit later. What's been in the news, Ahmed?
Well, lots of people have been talking about what is up on your screen right there, which is the Boston Bruins game, and in Vancouver, how there were riots after the Bruins, I believe, won. So the Canucks were upset enough to have these crazy riots that have been talked about online endlessly.
Now, what's up with Canadians? First of all, everybody knows that
generally.
The Bruins are amazing.
Right,
the Bruins
exactly.
are a great team. Boston has had an incredible year.
Yes.
And not to get too inside baseball, as they said, but this is a team that virtually all their major sports teams have won. The Patriots, their American football team, won 3 times. Mm-hmm. The Red Sox won the World Series twice. The Celtics, the basketball team, won in 2008. And now their hockey team has won. That should be something celebratory. So what happened in Vancouver?
You know, I mean, what happened was tens of thousands of angry fans essentially took to the streets and just started, raising chaos. And online, at the same time, the police in Vancouver, as you can see right here from their Twitter account, started realizing that so many photos were emerging online and videos that they, even in their latest tweet 28 minutes ago right here, said, if you took photos or videos last night of suspects committing criminal acts, please forward them to VPD. And then they gave you instructions as to how. I mean, it's crazy. We're seeing the crowdsourcing of criminal prosecution.
Well, the other funny thing about this, Jenny, is there's also, and this shows you the kind of people Canadians are, because they posted another website saying, post-riot cleanup, let's help Vancouver.
Right.
Facebook page.
And so it's a Facebook page.
Right.
So people have decided that they're going to make an effort. And here's a really wonderful photo of a woman in a wheelchair with her dog participating in that cleanup effort.
And it's not the first time the Vancouverers have rioted. They also rioted in 1994, also after a Game 7.
Oh,
sports, right?
Sports, also.
But not the Boston Bruins.
Also hockey, I believe.
Also hockey, yeah. And it's definitely the Canadians that always riot over hockey, because they also had a riot in 1993, but that time it was a victory. Montreal won.
Well, speaking of, this being a feedback show, at least the TV portion, one tweet that did come in had this website, which has now been put up in just, I guess, one day, called identifyrioters.com. Did you see this?
I heard about it.
Yeah, so it says right here at the top, can you identify the alleged rioter or looter in this photo? And then you can click this button right here, I know who this is, and it's really incredible.
It's like a massive Facebook tagging event.
Yeah, thousands of people have already liked this page. I don't know how many people have used it. I mean, it'll remain to be seen.
I wonder if it's going to help to identify. I think it's interesting because we've seen people coming out into the streets around the world about issues that they care about, things that are important to them. We talked yesterday about, marches, the Marcha da Liberdade happening in across Brazil this Saturday for freedom of expression. We're going to be talking about some movements that are happening tomorrow in Saudi Arabia. We've talked about things that have gone down in Greece and Spain. Obviously, everyone knows what happened in Egypt and Tunisia and Syria. All of these people speaking out about things that matter, and it's just kind of sad when you see people there in Vancouver right now coming out into the streets and committing violent acts because they lost the game.
Yeah, no, it's true, and there's all kinds of different reasons wwhy people riot and protest, and it's easy to think that, everything's inspired by the Arab awakening, and as you know, I often reference Egypt because I've grown up there, but I think, we're going to be talking a little bit later in the show about a story that came out of Korea that's similar in some senses, but before any of these revolutions, people have been protesting for their rights in smaller capacities, perhaps not sports exactly, but...
Well, I will say that in the defense of Vancouver, I know a lot of good people up there who are Canucks fans and who have been keeping it relatively mellow. I was getting tweets from overseas, people in Ghana, like, Ghana, we're with you. I mean, Ghanaian hockey fans supporting Vancouver. I personally was rolling for Boston, so I'm not that disappointed. But I'm hoping that they will be able to clean up the city and that nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, and we've been, everyone's talking about this online and everywhere. And I don't want to repeat myself, but we showed this one website, but there's another one on Tumblr, for those of you who like Tumblr, called Vancouver 2011 Riot Criminal List. So we did a show about Wikipedia in Egypt where
Can
people...
you blow up that photo?
Yeah. So, basically it's the same thing as that last site I just showed you. So there's different pictures. It says he is a rioter, got him on video smashing it up. And this is basically just a whole bunch of different photos of different people. And
now, isn't someone up there saying not a rioter?
It's all, say it again?
Well, can you scroll up a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, because the thing that's interesting about this, he said, so there's one saying, yes, this is a rider. Scroll down a little.
Right.
I saw another person that was saying that, no, it's not.
Well, see, and it's all alleged, right? Right here you can see
Exactly.
it says, can you identify the, and then in parentheses, alleged rider or looter in these photos.
I think that's why video will be very different from photography. But again, it brings up the idea that everything that we do now can be captured by photo.
What do you mean, like that video would be more proof?
Well, because in video you can see the person smashing it.
And also you can doctor a photo.
Yeah, and
so if I have a vendetta against you, I'll just take your head, put it on a photo.
Well, potentially, but I think that's, whenever you're talking about crowdsourced content, that's the question, is the issue of verification.
Right.
So that's why I wanted to see that, because we don't want to assume he's a writer, because some people are saying he's not. But the thing that's awesome about it, as you mentioned, is that people are using these technologies to help each other identify who was perpetrating violence and who was not.
And they're going back and forth, as you said. Someone saying, yes, this is definitively a rider. Someone else saying, no, it's not. Someone else saying, allegedly.
It'll be interesting how that will play out actually in court. You know.
Yeah. If some of this stuff comes into evidence.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's intriguing. There's another story actually. I saw, Ahmed, you went by it. I'd love to just touch on it real quickly. This Ulysses issue. It's basically a book by James Joyce, and people are using QR codes in order to share the content with each other, which I think is really intriguing, how you can use technology. QR code basically enables you to take an iPad and actually look at some of this content, and to have it take you to the actual chapter in the book.
I mean, look, right here, it's the title of the book. These are all the QR codes below it. I just zoomed in a bit. It says, this is the full text of Ulysses converted into 2D barcodes. So using a mobile phone with a barcode scanner, you can just scan each code and read a section of the book. Now, I don't know about copyright issues, but...
Well, I remember when people used to say when I was growing up that, technology is making these kids not want to read. This is amazing. Yeah. Technology is putting you right into the text.
We want to read. We just want to read on the subway, on our phone. And
shorter.
Minuscule. Yeah, exactly.
Get to it quickly.
Shorter narrative. That's
exactly.
We're going to soon speak in fragments if we don't already.
Yes. So, I mean, today, speaking of fragments, we're going to be live tweeting today. It's a feedback show. It's all about you. So definitely tweet us at AJStream. Both Ahmed and I are both going to be online all through the show. We're looking forward to talking to you. We will see you in just a few. Hi, I'm Derek Ashong, and you are now in the stream, a social media community with its own daily TV show. We're bringing you stories that are ongoing, global, and sourced from social media. Today is purely your show. Everything we're going to discuss is viewer suggested. First, how Saudi women plan on taking to the streets behind the wheel. And then we'll be Skyping in one of you live. Our digital producer, Ahmed Shihab-Eldin, is here with us as always. He and I are going to be looking out for your feedback, and we'll be engaging with some of you by live tweeting during the show. Also joining us on the couch is Jenny Lee, a journalist and author. Jenny has also brought a friend. Tell us who's joining you as a guest host.
So this is Heba Baba. He's a worldly traveled purple hippo who has been on 6 continents and is over 20 years old. And he has his own blog, which is at roaminghubba.com.
20 years old. He's older than me.
Yeah, totally. Very senior hippo. So this is him in Paris. He's been to Tiananmen Square. This is him at the White House. He's met Craig of Craigslist and been in Hollywood, where he sort of sat with Winnie the Pooh star. But more importantly, at the New York Public Library, he actually got to meet Winnie the Pooh, the original doll. And that was
amazing.
Sort of like
so
celebrity.
Winnie is his
idol.
His idol, and he's jumping in with Winnie right around there and getting a chance to see him.
Yeah, and he has a Twitter account and a Facebook page. I mean, he's sort of a very social media.
He's obviously an extremely worldly hippo. I love it. Let's jump right to our first story. It was suggested to us by Saudi student at The Logicer. On June 17th, women across Saudi Arabia will begin driving their cars in protest of the country's ban on female drivers. The kingdom is the only country in the world that doesn't allow women to drive. Although this isn't the first time protests like this have taken place, and we've mentioned them on the show before, this one is expected to be the largest. And, The Logicer was really inspired by this. She actually tweeted, "Saudi women are inspiring women of the world and inspiring me. Salute. Saudi women and hashtag women's rights. She suggested a really interesting angle on this particular story that we want to tackle right now. If you just take a look at this video. Now, last month, the woman in this video, Manal al-Sharif, was detained for 2 weeks by Saudi authorities because she posted a video of herself driving in the country. Only last week, 6 other women were arrested for driving in the capital, Riyadh. The women leading the protest have turned to Facebook and Twitter to organize the June 17th Women to Drive campaign. It's garnered a lot of attention and support internationally, and an online video campaign called Honk for Saudi Women Driving Initiative has also gone viral. Let's take a look at a clip from that particular campaign. This is people around the world who are supporting this idea of Saudi women having the right to drive.
Larry McCullough. I support Saudi women driving on June 17th.
How much do I support the June 17th Saudi Women's Driving Initiative? This much.
Get the green light going on Saudi women driving on June 17th.
My name is Kristen and I support Saudi women driving on June 17th. And ladies, don't forget to adjust your rear view mirrors.
Now, joining us now via Skype from Riyadh is a woman who's previously been detained for driving in the country. To protect her identity, we're using a fake name and we're going to conceal her face. Welcome to the show, Noura.
Hello.
Noura, tell us a little bit about what is motivating women to participate in these protests.
Okay, I think the detention of Manal al-Sharif 2 weeks ago, she was detained for 10 nights. This gave a lot of shocker to a lot of ladies that though that there is no actual ban for women to drive in Saudi, that she was captured by police and then detained. My experience, I drove before. I was detained as well by the police, but I signed a pledge, then they let me go. So there are some procedures are taken by law, and we're all very shocked. There is no actual law to prohibit this.
And that's a very interesting point, the idea that there is no law prohibiting this. So what is this, a cultural form? How did it come to be that women are not allowed to drive?
Yes, I do believe it's a cultural thing, for the simple fact that in the Middle East, in the Gulf region to be exact, from ages, women are always, I don't know if you call them pampered or trying to control them, but like Qatar or Oman, they just like 10 years ago had the right to drive.
I want to ask you one thing, Noor, because this has just come to me from @JRawson on Twitter, who's saying, can AJ Stream shed any light on why Saudi women are allowed to become airplane pilots? And this is interesting. So women in Saudi Arabia can become pilots but not drive. Is this true?
Yeah. Actually, we have one female pilot. She works as a pilot. She's registered as a valid pilot. So there are contradictions. We do believe this, and I think it's time for us to take actions by ourselves. But the initiative tomorrow, to be honest, I'm not very optimistic about it, for the simple reason that a lot of police forces and the Ministry of Interior, I think the police patrols are now higher, so that the security is much higher.
Noura, I just want to say that the king, in Saudi Arabia has spoken before about the fact that he believes women should drive, in certain areas outside of the major cities. And we have a tweet coming in saying if the ban on women to drive in Saudi is because of fear of harassment, which, a lot of people suggest is the reason, why penalize the women, which are the victims, as opposed to the perpetrators?
Absolutely. This is our question as well. It's not fair, it's not just. And as you said, King Abdullah, he spoke, I think in 2004, he said that this is a cultural thing, it's not by law. As well as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Prince Saud al-Faisal, also talked about this. And if you notice, Saudi Arabia have signed the CEDAW from the United Nations in year 2000 to discriminate or to take out all kind of discrimination against women. But this is yet to be actual happening here.
Right. Now, Noura, I'm wondering one other thing, and then I want to get, Jenny, your thoughts on something. Are there any men who have been supportive of the right of women to drive in Saudi Arabia?
A lot of men. Actually, there have been men, I've heard that they want to dress in our traditional clothes, the abaya and the veil, and they want to be out on the streets. So, yes, there are a lot of men who are supporters, and there are a lot of people, even women, who are against this. But the thing is, we're fighting for the right of choice. We're not forcing anyone to drive or not to drive. It's just a fact of choice.
So, Jenny, this is a very interesting point that she's making, and it seems that people around the world are resonant with it. Do you think that it helps or hurts their cause that it's gaining so much international attention?
Well, I think it's definitely a good thing that it sort of is drawing a lot of attention to a very, very specific and tangible issue that a lot of people can relate to. One of the things I find really striking is about it's also an economic issue, because from what I understand, a lot of women have to spend an inordinate amount of money on cabs because they can't drive, but they still have to get places. And I was wondering, I mean, I've read, up to 1/3 of their income, perhaps, in certain situations.
Noura, can you speak to that?
Yeah. Absolutely. A lot of women pay a lot of money for having a driver, and not also for his paycheck every month. To have a driver, to accommodate a driver in your house, this takes a lot of your income.
Noura, we have a tweet from Malakiz saying, as you were speaking earlier about the role of men, saying men must support this cause. All the people must unite in order to show patriarchal rules have no place in the new Arab society. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
And what? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. Absolutely, I do. I think it's not a woman's right issue now. It's a society's issue. It's getting deeper and deeper, and if we women don't take initiative and stop it right now, I don't know who will. But I think the problem has come to a stage that the government is taking it as some sort of a rebellious action, like it's unsecured to have such a gathering or doing such a campaign.
Noura, we really appreciate you taking time to talk to us about this. What you're doing is very courageous, and we're definitely going to be looking to see what transpires tomorrow. Thank you for explaining to us.
Thank you.
Now, we want to find out more details. If you want to find out more details about the June 17th Drive campaign, you can see them on our website, stream.aljazeera.com. You're also going to find many more stories there, along with videos and images. Ahmed, what kind of things have people been saying to us online?
Sure, Derek. Well, I want to start by saying that after Tuesday's show on the tar sands in Canada, we got this tweet right here from Desands GovAB, who's a spokesman for the government of Alberta, telling us that the picture of a fish that we showed right here is actually, we said it was deformed, it's actually a normal specimen. So it's apparently meant to look like that, with a second jaw, as you can see. There are fish that are deformed. It's just that this is not one of them.
That's just an ugly fish.
Yeah, this just happens to be an ugly fish, as you guys...
His mom might think it's...
Right, exactly. But anyway, we want to share this with you because, as we mentioned on that show, Al Jazeera's documentary series Witness will actually be dealing with the tar sands issue in the film Till the Last Drop, which airs on June 22nd. And in there, there's actual footage of the deformed fish. So we're just going to share with you a little sneak peek right here.
In time, I think this lake will be totally destroyed if we don't try to do something about it, Yeah. I've been a commercial fisherman for 53 years in the whole Lake Athabasca. I had never, ever seen deformed fish in my younger days. And I had lost at least 8 members of my family on cancer.
So we just wanted to share that with everybody. And Jenny, as we said, today's show is all about feedback. Another story that came in early this morning was about a bomb blast at Nigeria, in Abuja, near the police headquarters. So lots of people have been tweeting us about this story. And eventually we saw that even Demotics, which is a citizen journalism platform where people can send photos, presumably from Nigeria, to share the story. As you can see, there is one of the photos right there. But we also asked our viewers to send us storifies, and this is one story put together by Ogala. He says Nigerians are telling the story of this bombing in Abuja. And basically, I just wanted to share with everybody that the government there, the police, is suspecting it to be a member of the Boko Haram sect. And if you're not familiar with them, since 2009, they've basically been rallying for the fact that the Western education system should not be part of Nigeria.
And so they're saying that they took violent actions to kind of support their political agenda.
Exactly, and we're going to be following the story, and so I'll be following it for you, Derek.
Okay, awesome. Now, we asked you, our viewers, to submit story files about topics that interest you. We received a lot of great responses, and it was tough to choose just the best one. I mean, but we did have some good stuff to share. I want to start with this one. Shannon Monique submitted The Art of Being Indignant, which is a story about Anonymous, whom we've reported out before, a loose collective of hackers.
Yeah.
Also, by Live J from Korea, an actress promotes the strike of her Twitter friend. I think we're going to be talking a little bit about that one in just a few moments.
Right.
Ahmed just told you about the Nigerian story that was submitted by Ogala. There's another story on Somalia that was submitted by Bali Laden about the Somali Revolution. Also, Live J submitted another one from Korea about music videos used to promote protest.
Right.
And finally, Pink Teardrop submitted one about gay rights around the world. Now, in the end, we had to go with 16-year-old Jalal Abukhater from Jerusalem. Jalal's story focused on the reconciliation efforts between Hamas and Fatah. It also included live tweets and pictures that he'd posted while at a youth march in the West Bank town of Ramallah. The march was to protest the lack of progress with these reconciliation talks. Let's take a look at some of what he reported. If you'll bear with me, here we go. First of all, he made a point that tweeted, although they let us down lots of times, faction leaders are meeting today to decide on a new Palestinian government and a new prime minister in Cairo. He hashtagged it hope.
Right.
Well, we also see at Avinunu tweeted earlier in the month, congratulations to Palestinians on 1 month of quote-unquote reconciliation. Did you see any difference yet? And Jalal had responded, I saw Hamas guys celebrating in West Bank, Fatah guys celebrating in Gaza. That is it. He also sent us images from the protest, and if you just have a look, you can see young people shackled with this imagery that they are not being able to express the freedoms that they want based upon the impasse. Joining us now via Skype is Jalal himself. Jalal, welcome to the stream. It's great to have you here. Tell us a little bit about what motivated you to go out into the streets.
Well, it's the reconciliation, the Palestinian reconciliation has, they signed it in Cairo about a month and a half ago, and until now we haven't seen any difference. We haven't seen anything they promised us applied on the ground. We haven't seen the release of political prisoners. We haven't seen the opening of all institutions. We haven't seen everything they promised us. So we just wanted to protest, to remind them that we still demand what we requested 2 months ago. We still want you to follow up with your promises and just release all political prisoners, reconcile with each other, Hamas and Fatah, reconcile, unite the West Bank and Gaza, open all institutions, and give us back our freedom of speech. That's what we demand. So
now, Jalal, I want to
remind them.
I want to ask you one more question, though. Have you always been an online activist or engaged in using Twitter and these social media tools, or is this something more recent?
It is more recent, about 5 months ago. That's when I really started using Twitter to express myself, to express whatever is on my mind. I'm just recent on Twitter, I guess.
Jalal, I don't want to bring up Egypt because I often do, but you know, I heard that you said after January 25th, that's when you really started tweeting. Why?
That's true. On January 25th, when I saw that the Egyptian revolution was something magnificent, the youth just stood up in the streets. It began with hundreds, began with 500 people on the streets, and then it developed into millions in Tahrir Square and everywhere. So that's just inspiring. That motivated me to tweet more about politics, tweet more about stuff which actually could end tyranny, could bring a bright light to our Arab world, which has always been in bleak circumstances. We just want hope. We want to finish with dictators. We want a new future for the Arab world.
You know, Jalal, I must say, I think that if we have young people like you participating, sharing your voices, being a part of these peaceful movements, we can definitely have hope. Thank you so much for joining us in the stream.
Thank you. Thank you.
He's really amazing. That's really inspiring. 16-year-old kid made one of the best story-files we received. Ahmed, tell us some more about what people are saying to us online.
Right, so today is all about feedback. And early this morning, I noticed that everyone was talking out of Korea about the story of a Korean actress and a Korean activist coming together. So right here you see this woman, a Korean woman named Kim Jin-suk, who's the member of a Korean Confederation of Trade Unions, has been protesting planned layoffs by her company where she's worked for 25 years. So right here, this is a photo of her at night. She's been protesting from a 35-meter-high driver's seat of a vessel crane at the shipyard that she works since January. So you can imagine that means in the cold, because, you know, in January in Korea it's freezing, she's been there trying to protest the possibility of 400 layoffs. So the story evolved when, as you can see, everyone was sending me pictures when I started to ask more about the story. These are pictures right here of the crane. But the story evolved when this actress right here, Kim Yo-jin, who on Twitter took to the story and actually went down to the shipyard herself and met with the actual woman, and they started tweeting, and she went halfway up the crane. And this really rallied a lot of attention on the Twitterverse in Korea around the story. She eventually got detained, and a lot of people were sending tweets to us. As you can see right here, Addix is saying that Yo Jeannie, which is the actress, her intention is to spread the word about this case of injustice in Korea. It's the big issue in Korea at the moment.
So you've got a famous actress taking up this cause and bringing more attention to it.
Right, exactly. And this allowed a lot of people to come and rally behind her. A lot of people eventually got arrested. I'm just going to show you.
And it's really notable because the actress herself is known as a power Twitterer. So it's not necessarily just any kind of sort of actress or celebrity,
no, exactly.
but one who sort of built themselves a following.
Exactly. And I learned through, talking to people like this Addix, is that, a lot of people in Korea end up, especially celebrities, being called or summoned to court to talk about corruption or gambling or all these kinds of things. So the fact that she's being called to talk about fighting for, someone's rights or the rights of workers, especially temporary workers, is great. I'm just going to play some of this video just to give you an idea of, a couple of days ago how the scene unfolded right at the scene. So this is at the actual shipyard, and this is on June 11th. The actress went to the shipyard and she participated in some of these protests. Now, Kim has refused to call off the protests, and the actress has also refused to stop requesting, thousands of people to partake in this. And we actually received, as we all know, we have asked people to send us storifys and tell us this story in detail. And Live J, who is one of our, frankly, Live J, thank you so much, because he's been one of our most commentators. Most active commenters. Yeah. He created this story, and I just want to read one thing that he shared with us in this storify. This is actually an image. I'm going to blow it up right here from the actress herself. She took a screenshot on her phone. She's saying right here, I'm going to start reading right here, many Koreans, including myself, have been supporting her efforts. So this is the woman who's been protesting. Meanwhile, Hanjin Chairman Chao Nam-ho, who is, the chairman of this company, has shown no intention of willingness to talk with her and requested the Korean police to come into the site and take over the situation.
Wow. So there's a lot going on there, and we really appreciate people giving us this kind of feedback. I want to highlight one tweet that just came in. This was from @LarryMadoo. He's saying, AJ Stream, I hope it's not too late to tweet in. Your show is a breath of fresh air, and we'll shamelessly do a replica on Kenyan TV. For all of you who are watching, we hope that you will all try to replicate this, because it's all about getting more people involved in telling important stories. Now I've got something really cool to show you. If you just bear with us, Jessica, will you come in here for a moment, please?
Sure.
All right, Jessica, pleasure to meet you. Have a seat over here.
Well.
Jessica Stewart, your producer and entrepreneur. Jessica just went to the Webby. She wore this same dress, and she won 2 Webbies for a video that she created. These have QR codes on them, which do something very special, and I'm going to show you. If you'll take a look at my iPad, I'm going to point it at one of these QR codes. Let's see. All right. Something's happening. I hit continue, and what happens? Yes, after pointing at that QR code, I now have been taken directly to her website. Ahmed, let's take a look at what that website shares with us.
I'm Elizabeth Glazer. While giving birth to my first child, I hemorrhaged and was transfused with 7 pints of blood. 4 years later, I found out that I had been infected with the AIDS virus and had unknowingly passed it to my daughter.
is actually made by the Elizabeth Glaser, or made for the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation. And Jessica, that's a really powerful video. I'm hoping if you can sit down and hang with us for a little bit, maybe we can talk about it some more, even going into our post show. So take a seat there, and first of all, just give us a quick insight into why you made the video.
Well, I made the video. I've known about the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation for quite some time. And what I do know is that 1,000 children a day are diagnosed still with HIV around the world. And we now have the drugs, they're called PMTCT, that can prevent mother-to-child transmission of HIV. So when they gave me the opportunity to make this video, it was a real honor. And the amount of attention that this video has gotten has been quite amazing.
Now tell us a little bit about how the QR codes have played into raising that awareness.
Well, when we won the Webby Awards, which are sort of, we call it the Emmys or the Oscars for nerds. It's the website, they honor websites. Yes. And so I thought it would be a really fun idea to make a dress, to put a QR code on. Yeah. I know they're used many places around the world. It's still relative, nice QR code.
There you go. That's our QR code for the stream.
It's tricky though. I like your fabric. Nice. Carry on.
I thought it would be really fun to make a dress with the QR code to raise more awareness. And I thought lots of people would do it, but I was actually the only girl in the nerd dress. So it's sort of my Lady Gaga version of the Webby Award.
Right.
And the good news is we went from 30 hits a day with this video to 2,000 hits with the dress and with obviously the awareness of PMTCT.
I love that because when we're talking about having a feedback show, it's all about interactivity. How do you really get people to connect in new and interesting ways? And that dress is a wonderful example of something in the real world connecting to the digital world as well. What do you think, Jenny?
Oh, I think the dress is totally hot. I'm now inspired to get like a linen screen
Well, it's not easy to make. There's mathematical equations, and the dress has to be bigger.
And you have to have friends. You have to have friends.
Yeah, you have to,
Yeah.
Well, one person's reaction on Twitter that I just want to sums it up in one word. MG Huff says, QR code dress ? Wow. So I think
I hope
you've
it's a good wow.
Yeah, no, you've impressed some people, I'm sure.
And the video is, something I'm most proud of in the world. So
that's amazing.
Great way.
Well, I want to say something that we're really proud of, and this is something that a lot of you are not going to be aware of, but our executive producer, Stephen Phelps, is leaving us today. He has helped to build the stream from its babyhood. If you'll take a look at my monitor, you can see him in the control room, observing what we're doing diligently as always. He's a hardworking man, and he has really been a part of the team to make the stream possible. We want to thank you, Steve, for being an innovator and for being open to doing creative things. We want to thank you, our audience, for being here with us. None of this would be possible without you. We're going to encourage you to keep submitting your story-files to us. This is your show. If you want to be honest, send us what you want to talk about. We're going to continue this conversation on our website right now. In the post show, go straight to stream.aljazeera.com. We'll keep tweeting with you, and you can tweet us at AJStream. It's been great. We will see you online. All right, welcome back. This is the Post Show. This is where we get a chance to speak in greater depth about the issues of the day. As you can see, for the first time, I'm getting to kick it on the couch with the rest of the crew.
Welcome.
This is definitely going to be some good stuff. Merci buckets. First, before we get into some of the further topics, I just want to say, Jessica, I really love how you're using technology to advance a cause that you really believe in.
Thank you.
And I'm just hoping you could give us a little bit of insight into the dangers associated with mother-to-child transmission of HIV and also the advances that have been made in solving the problem.
Well, really, you're looking at, it's been 30 years this year that the U.S. has acknowledged HIV as a disease. And what's been created is something called PMTCT over several years. And PMTCT, prevention of mother-to-child I can never get it right. PMTCT. But they are actual drugs that you can give a pregnant woman who's HIV positive. She can take the drugs while she's pregnant, and as soon as she delivers, the baby takes a droplet of medication, and it is proving to be, I think, 98%. In 98% of the cases, the child will be HIV negative. And what this means is you can create a generation free of HIV. So we're looking at eliminating HIV.
This is such an amazing possibility, because there's a lot of stigma still attached with HIV. I remember I participated in a conference done by UNAIDS in Norway, and it wasn't a public conference. It was a conference of young HIV activists who were collaborating with mentors, and some of us who are a little more mature. I am not 20 years old, as I alleged in the pre-show.
Or as you look.
Right? But some of us who are a little bit older and have done different kinds of things, we're there to mentor them. And it was so intriguing, because I met this one young lady, I won't mention her name, but she was from Australia, and she was born HIV positive. And she didn't even know that she was different from other kids until she got a little bit older, and she started asking her mom, why couldn't she do this, or why couldn't she do that, etc. And she started to feel like something was wrong with her. And it was so heartrending. I was sitting there looking at this little girl. At the time I met her, she was maybe 15. And she talked about how it wasn't until she started working on HIV prevention and helping other people that she started to find her place in the world. And I just think this is such a powerful thing, because it's hard to imagine what it means for a child to be born with a death sentence.
Well, what's quite amazing is in the United States now, less than 200 babies are born a year with HIV.
Okay.
So these drugs are working, and we know it. We know that we can eliminate HIV, or we can move towards it in the next generation. And so we've done that here. We need to be taking these drugs to places that need it the most. And that's really what the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation is doing. So again, sorry.
Yeah, no, go, please finish.
Oh, no, so again, when they asked me to do the video, I had no idea that this was happening. And I've done lots of work with lots of foundation work. I do a lot of production overseas and in Africa. And this foundation is quietly moving in, and they're quietly distributing these drugs. And now it's finally getting the awareness.
What's the cost kind of
I would have to ask an expert on that, but I do believe it's somewhere around $10 to $15.
Wow.
It's a distribution issue, but the medication is there and it's available. It's awareness, it's getting it to the mothers that need it the most.
Before we go on, because you brought up how this is happening in different territories, we know that there's a big problem in Africa with this. Ahmed has got a screen up on his page about breaking the silence on HIV in Egypt.
Yeah, one of my friends, frankly, wrote this article for the website, Malika Bilal, two of my friends actually. But it's really interesting, because you mentioned the fact that this is taboo, and it's obviously taboo in Africa. People don't talk about it, and the first step to solving this issue is to address it. But this article is great because it says, there's one HIV, this is just the summary, I'm going to read it. One HIV-positive Egyptian speaks out against the stigma surrounding the virus 30 years after the first case was diagnosed.
Wow.
So, it's been 30 years and still.
Well, and another thing that I will say is it actually is talked about in certain parts of Africa. I mean, I remember when I was studying in Ghana, I remember being back home, I think it was the around 1995 or so, and at that time I was seeing signs, big, like not just regular signs, but big billboards talking about HIV awareness and safe sex and different things like that. And talking about usage of condoms in ways that you wouldn't see even done in the U.S. at that time. So some African countries really took the initiative in working on this. I want to talk about another African country that is also celebrating an anniversary, and this is South Africa. And we've been learning a little bit about it's been it's not a little bit. It's been 35 years since the student uprisings out of Soweto that really kind of drove towards the ultimate end of South Africa, and led to a lot of people seeing the inhumanity and the ultimately being willing to divest from South Africa. And as you can see from Ahmed's screen, it says
on June 11th. Go ahead.
Well, this particular piece is about the death of an anti-apartheid icon. But the issue that I want to talk about a little bit more now is what happened with those student protests, and how we commemorate now, years later, what those students did to lead to freedom for people in South Africa.
I was there last year during the World Cup, and actually on this day, and they still celebrate with marches, and it's a really powerful, magnificent event that happened. And and
the thing to keep in mind, to give some context to our viewers, is that these students were gunned down by security forces at the time. And so it was virtually a massacre of children. And as we're looking at all of the uprisings in the world right now, I think it's worth acknowledging the role that South African youth made, the role that they played in making it more, bringing it to attention the kind of atrocities, the global attention, the kind of atrocities that are exactly. And now, you know, you look at what's happening with young people, for example, in Syria. You know, and you don't have media there to document what's been going on. But that legacy of the South African youth standing up is also the kind of thing that has led to the movements we see today and the courage that other young people are embracing in standing up for what they believe to be their rights.
No, it's true. And, you know, one thing I want to mention while I look for some tweets about this, because all day we've been getting a lot of people who are tweeting at us that we should definitely mention this in the show, and also sharing some images commemorating this day, is, you know, apartheid is something that you think is of the past, especially how it was conquered in South Africa, and yet, you know, we still see many people alleging that, you know, in places like Israel, that, you know, if it's apartheid, if you want to use the term or not, you know, you still have some of the same issues affecting society, you know, so many years later. And, you know, just while you guys discuss this, I'm going to pull up some tweets and hopefully we can include it in the show. We have a YouTube video. Oh, actually, this is one that we tweeted out. But this is actually a tweet from someone named Lumumba Andal.
Lumumba Bandele.
See, I needed you for that. See, what can I do?
I'm just here to help.
Today, Soweto Day, which is the hashtag. So for any of you who want to follow this story that we're talking about, you can use this hashtag. Marks the beginning of the student uprising in South Africa. As we've said, 13-year-old Hector Peterson was one of the first killed. And I think it's really interesting to note that people are using the names of some of these victims, you know, so many years later in the form of a hashtag. You know what I mean? It's kind of interesting to see how it transcends time and technology.
Well, you know, it's a really powerful way for people to sort of honor something. I saw it with the Freedom Riders thing. You take someone who was either arrested or was killed photo and adapt it as your avatar for the day.
So I want to ask you a question, Jenny. As a journalist, you know, we are in an interesting phase of our industry in that we're enabled by technology to be much more interactive with people. And I think that by interacting more closely with people, you wind up having these different sentiments towards the stories that you cover. What are your thoughts on this idea of journalistic impartiality when we're thinking about things like what happened in South Africa? Could a journalist look at that and truly be impartial? When we look at what's happened in Egypt, when we look at what's happening in Syria and we see these atrocities, is it our job to be impartial? And how can we purport to give people an honest assessment of what's going on when so much of our content is coming from you know, users who may or may not have vetted it, and we ourselves may find that we are somehow moved by what we're seeing?
Well, there are two things that are going on. One of which is now individuals who are in these situations can actually tell way more powerful stories than I might be able to historically as sort of a journalist who reports on someone else. So personal narrative in this age is going to be transformative, right? Not just in terms of in Twitter or Facebook, but literally in how we consume short stories or nonfiction experiences. So immersive first person has just become, I think, sort of the tone of the 21st century. The second thing that is interesting is just as a journalist, one of the reasons that these small sort of protests and riots become really interesting is because we just simply don't have necessarily the manpower to cover every single protest, right? Yes. And a lot of protests kind of take a little bit of like exponential growth before they kind of hit into kind of public consciousness. So what happens now is it gives you kind of items, whether not through videos or through tweets or through like photos, that become artifacts that then journalists can use to report on. So we can report on a video even if we weren't there ourselves.
You raised the issue of journalism, and you mentioned Syria, and we're drawing these parallels, and we often talk about social media as being able to document things in various mediums, but this tweet actually raises that very issue. Max Dupreez is saying, I hope I got that one right. I was in Soweto as a 24-year-old reporter on the morning of June 16th, 1976. It changed my life entirely and my country. Remember, honor, and respect.
Well, I think it's worth keeping in mind when we look at what's happening around the world tonight, right now, particularly the Middle East and North Africa, is that South Africa had a very interesting road. It was a difficult one. There was a lot of violence. A lot of children were killed, as we are talking about with Soweto uprisings. But when Mandela came out of prison, he didn't look to punish or penalize the people who had imprisoned him for, I think, 26 years. He didn't look to have some sort of retribution. He said, we're all South Africans, let's move forward. And I think this is going to be a big test when we're looking at some of the changes happening in the Middle East and North Africa. Are people able to make those changes with the same spirit of democracy and egalitarianism that will transcend revenge or retribution?
One last tweet just to kind of place us in South Africa, because as we know, that's what technology can do. You can almost feel that you're there even without the photos or video. Gabby Rosario is saying, chatted to 5 kids in the streets of Soweto today. They were asking for change to buy a soccer ball, and one knew who Hector Peterson was.
Okay, well, hopefully more of us will be able to remember those who came by and who sacrificed for us to be where we are today. We want to thank all of you for joining us. It's been an amazing show. You can continue giving us feedback at AJStream. You can tweet us right there or use the hashtag AJStream. We will see you again next week. It's been a pleasure. Catch you online.